Welcome back, guys, to the Warlords of Draenor Alpha/Beta client. This is Winweave with Margaritaville Guild, and in this video we're going to be talking all about the Brewmaster Monk. Going to be going over the removal of a couple spells, a lot of changed abilities, a couple new glyphs, the new level 100 talents, Draenor Perks, all that good stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy. If you do, don't forget to hit that like button down below, as well as subscribe. I'll be putting out new videos just as often as I can, so I'd love to be able to share those with you guys. So let's jump right in. We can start with removal of a few spells. Nothing too major here, nothing I'm super upset about, but we'll go over those. So the number one is Avert Harm. This was your raid-wide defensive cooldown, which reduced the damage of our already raid or party members, and then put that damage onto the monk himself. So I was never a big fan of this one. Usually, especially in progression, when your raid's taking a bunch of damage, so is the tank, and healers are preoccupied with healing up the entire raid, not just the tank. So having something to make the tank take more damage was just a bad idea in my mind. Now, I know they're taking away or at least reducing a lot of the raid-wide defenses that tanks have or can offer, and so not too upset about that one. The next one is going to be Clash. I really did like this ability a whole lot. I think that maybe Blizzard was taking it out because they just saw it as like, it's just a nice to have. It's not really vital to play, and then possibly also because there's so much mobility and movement spells for monks with Roll, Tiger's Lust, Transcendence, etc. So I really did like Clash, though. It was great early on in the expansion when you're doing heroic dungeons, getting casters into the group because you're clashing them in, stunning everybody. It just felt really natural. It was really good in my opinion, as well as if somebody had aggro, one of your healers, not only were you getting over to them quickly and hitting them to grab aggro, it also pulled them away from that healer or away from that DPS who had aggro. So I really liked it. I wish it wasn't going away, but it's looking that way so far. Another one, this one actually hasn't been removed, but it's been rolled up into a different ability, and that's Desperate Measures, where your Expel Harm doesn't have a cooldown when you're under 25 or when you're under 35% health. That's just rolled up into the Expel Harm tooltip, so if you guys don't see it in your spellbook, that's where it's at. A new ability that both Windwalkers and Brewmasters have now is Surging Mist. So to me, this is more of a, while I'm out questing, I can top myself off, or if I'm early on the expansion doing heroics and the healer's drinking, I can top myself and everybody else off. Quality of life thing there. Maybe they should take that back away and give me Clash again. So we've got a couple new glyphs we can go over here. Let's see, really just two to mention for Brewmasters. One is Expel Harm, and that reduces the energy cost by 5 when your health's below 35%. So usually when you're below 35, you're probably spamming this to some extent, Expel Harm that is, and so reducing that energy cost is definitely a good one, or one to consider in my opinion. And then the other one, I'm not too happy with it. I don't think there's much to it. It increases the range of Keg Smash by 5 yards. Usually when I'm tanking, I'm right up on everything, so I don't know why I would need that 5-yard increase on Keg Smash, but it is there. So there's two new glyphs that I wanted to mention. So now let's jump into a bunch of changes for some of our abilities. So the number one ability that has changed, guys having flying trouble back there, change is Legacy of the White Tiger and Legacy of the Emperor have now been combined into one buff and are available to Brewmasters as well as Windwalkers. And so that's going to increase your Strength, Agility, and Intellect by 5% and give you that 5% critical strike chance buff, which totally makes sense. Brewmaster is relying heavily on crit still. So you've got that. Now keep in mind, Mistweavers still only have that Legacy of the Emperor buff, so basically they have King still, but they don't have that crit chance buff. So I've got that change. The next one I'm actually pretty excited about, and that's going to be the change to Mastery. And so Mastery now, what the heck? What is this Larry doing? So apparently this guy just wants to attack me. Not sure what he's doing. So anyway, Alliance, right? So Mastery, that's where we were. So Mastery now not only reduces or increases your stagger amount by a percentage, but also increases your attack power, which I think is pretty awesome. So crit was basically the stat that progression monk tanks were stacking so that they don't ever get hit by a boss, and also because it dealt a little bit more damage and you've got to hit those enraging timers early on. Now having Mastery increase your attack power can provide some of that damage as well, so maybe a little bit more of a balance there. So I like that change. The next one is going to be your Black Ox statue, and I want to go back over here, but I want to pick a fight with this Larry. I guess I'll just auto attack him for right now. Oh, he's logging out. That's why. Sweet. I can understand camping maybe in-game, but in the beta, that just seems weird. I think he thought I was AFK. So the Gift of the Ox, where this does no longer provides that shield on party or raid members, but it does, as you can kind of tell, it pulses out aggro within 30 yards. And so this can be great. I was thinking of fights like Garrosh, where I throw this down right on top of myself. Ads come out first phase, and they all just run towards me because it's pulsing this aggro, and it also has the ability where you can, taunt it, and then it taunts everybody within that. I think it's a 10-yard area to attack you, and so I like that really well in theory. However, I think it needs some fine-tuning for sure. Blizzard has maybe not fully thought all the way through it, or maybe not practiced with it enough. I went through a couple dungeons with this, would lay down this statue like I always have with Brewmaster, and then all of a sudden 3 to 4 rooms or 3 to 4 groups of mobs would just come running from every corner of the dungeon and start attacking the statue, quickly kill it, and then just kill the rest of the party super fast. And so I found myself like putting the statue way over in corners or away from the group, back at the entrance of the dungeon as we're first starting off. And to me, having it right in the middle, being able to taunt off it, that's kind of the purpose. And so I'd love it if it was changed to where maybe it's only pulses to characters that are, or NPCs that are already in combat with you, or maybe reduce that range a little bit, do something, or have an activated ability to pulse that out, something to where it doesn't just go in and pull everything, because I could find myself just not using it, period, if it continues as is. So there's that. Gift of the Ox, this has just been changed. It still produces those little healing spheres for you, but it is triggered off of your auto attack multi-strikes now. So if you guys remember, multi-strike is one of the new enhancement abilities, and it basically makes you, where'd it go? Multi-strike, there we go. Basically makes your heals and your damage dealing abilities have a chance to hit for an additional attack for 30% of the original amount. So you've got that. You can spawn some healing spheres off your auto attack multi-strikes. This is true of all tanks. Vengeance is going away. Thank the Lord. Happy about this one. I'm tired of tanks topping all DPS meters on fights. Vengeance is going away and is now Resolve. And so Resolve, rather than increasing your damage when you've been hit, it increases your healing and absorbs when part of it's based off your stamina and part of it's off unmitigated damage for the last 10 seconds. And so all tanks will have a base amount of Resolve. Right now I have 9%, and that is solely based off of my stamina. So the more stamina you have, the more Resolve you have, as well as the more damage you've taken recently, the more Resolve you have as well. So we've got that. Another one that I'm excited about, and I hope this is actually true. It doesn't actually work in game yet, but tooltip here says it, as well as I've seen it written on a couple sites already, and that's that Elusive Brew stacks up to 35 stacks. And whether that's can only consume 15 at a time or consumes all 35 stacks, whatever it is, I hope that's actually true. I could find that extremely useful, especially on a tank swapping fight. So while I'm off tanking, I can be stacking up to 35 stacks of this Elusive Brew. I taunt, pop that Elusive Brew, and now I've got 35 seconds of an additional 35% dodge to melee and ranged attacks, and if for 35 seconds I've got a long time to build up some more stacks of that, so I can basically have that 35% dodge chance indefinitely, really, if your tank's swapping on a fight. So I really hope that they do that. That could be a little bit too overpowered if we're able to do that. But as a Brewmaster Monk, or as someone who plays Brewmaster Monk sometimes, I hope that it stays that way. Another one, this is more has to do with one of the perks, but just thought I'd mention it, is Stance of the Sturdy Ox with one of your perks increases the amount of stamina by 40%, and I'm wondering if they're making that change just to monks for them to have an increased amount of stamina, similar to Guardian Druids, or if they're going to kind of balance that out with the other tanks and everybody's going to have a similar amount of stamina. But with the spikiness that I think monk tanks can take, it would be nice to have a little bit more stamina to work with. And then we also have Tiger Strikes. This was a Mistweaver / Windwalker ability only, where it increased your auto attack speed, I believe it was, by 50%, and the next 4 attacks you're hitting twice, basically. So they've changed it up a little bit, and now Brewmasters have it, and it's where your successful auto attacks and multi-strikes from your auto attacks each have an 8% chance to increase your multi-strike chance by 25% for 8 seconds. So this is great. I currently have, let's see here, and this is in PvP level 100 gear, 5.4% multi-strike. If I get the Tiger Strikes, so basically 35 or 30% multi-strike chance. So that in turn gives me a pretty good, decent chance to summon some of these healing spheres around me. So I like that there. And then another change is going to be to Guard. So Guard 1 no longer gets buffed off of your Tiger Palm. With the Draenor perk, it has 2 charges and still costs 2 chi, but it's going to absorb damage just like it did before and increase healing that you do to yourself by 30% just like it did before. The only difference here is you don't have to pair it with a buff from Tiger Palm, and it also has two charges on there. And those are on a 30-second recharge timer there. Okay, so those are a lot of the changes to your abilities. Let's talk about talents real quick. Your first tier talents, no real change there. I think they've changed the formula for all of your level 30 talents, but we won't really go into that. Your level 3 talents, Ascension's been reduced a little bit. Still increases your maximum chi by 1, your maximum mana by 10%, and your energy regen by 10%. So that's down from 15. So it was energy and mana regen from 15 down to 10%. I've always kind of liked Chi Brew. Anyway, I like having that control over when I get those, and hitting up 10 stacks of Elusive Brew real fast is pretty nice. Nothing really for yours. Oh, actually, I take that back. Ring of Peace has been changed. I've tried to use this in dungeons, tried to use it in PvP as a healer, not really as a Brewmaster. Not a huge fan of it. It basically incapacitates all enemies for 3 seconds, and then it still lasts for 8 seconds. So if somebody tries to cast something after they've been incapacitated for 3 seconds, they will be incapacitated for an additional 3 seconds. It's not that great. Definitely don't love it at all. I think that was more of a PvP change. They wanted people to maybe rely on the Charging Oxwave or Leg Sweep instead. So next here, Dampen Harm. This has been changed. I'm actually not sure if I like or dislike this change. So Dampen Harm used to say that for the next 3 attacks, any damage that was dealt to you equal to 20% or more of your total health was reduced in half. So that's been reduced down to 15%. I think that's a nerf early on, but later on when you had a whole lot of gear, sometimes I have found it hard to get hit in one single hit for more than 20% of my health, and so having it lowered could actually be more helpful later on in the tier. Nothing really changed for your level 90 talents, although I hope that maybe it was just a gear thing or a tuning thing for the dungeons, but I was using Zune, my Tiger, in some of the dungeons, and the bosses in just a 5-man dungeon normal mode were killing the Tiger within like 5 hits. So I hope they make a change to that. So let's talk about the level 100 talents. Go through here. The first one, there's not much to show necessarily, unless I find something that can cast some spells on me here, but this is just to show that you're able to shrug off spells. So 30% of your normal stagger amount now works against magic damage. So that's pretty sweet. And I really like this paired with your Glyph of Guard, which you currently have already, but this increases the amount of your guard by 10%, but it only absorbs magical damage, so you can absorb quite a bit of magical damage there, and then also be able to shrug off some magic damage as well. So that's just good pair there. We can actually use Elusive Brew, heavy stacks of Elusive Brew on physical fights, and then have a couple options for magic damage based fights as well. The next one's going to be Chi Explosion, so we'll go ahead and select that. As a reminder, if you guys haven't seen this on any of the other videos, so Chi Explosion actually replaces your Blackout Kick. You can see that on my bar here. So I'll show you that here in just a second. This is an ability that consumes anywhere from 1 all the way up to 4 Chi, and this is going to do more and more increased beneficial things the more Chi you use, and it increases. So like, let's say for 1 Chi it's going to deal some damage. It deals at this level with this gear 4k damage plus 4k per Chi consumed, meaning for 1 Chi I'm going to deal 4k damage. If I spend 2 Chi, I have the additional ability from the 2 Chi as well as 4k plus 4k, so an 8k total damage. So for 1 Chi, dealing damage. For 2 Chi, I also gain Shuffle for 2 seconds plus 2 seconds per Chi consumed. So if you look at that, if you're spending 2 Chi, you're going to gain 6 seconds of Shuffle, with similar to just a normal Blackout Kick. For 3 Chi, it's also going to purify me of all my staggered amount. So this is really cool to me. And the reason why is I'm going to use 1 Chi to remove all of use Purifying Brew to instantly remove all of my staggered damage. So instead of using 1 Chi just to remove that damage, I can use it to remove that damage, plus grab another 2 seconds on my Shuffle, plus do an additional 4,000 damage here from that initial ability of Chi Explosion. So I really like that there. That makes sense to me to cast that for 4 Chi instead. I mean for 3 Chi instead. So for 4 Chi, the damage also hits all enemies within 8 yards of the target. I don't see you using that very often, maybe in dungeons, maybe in big ad phases, but I definitely see you casting that for 3 Chi. So if you guys want to see the visual of that, if you haven't already, it's too far away. So this is for 4 Chi. It's going to do AoE. I don't think I'm close enough to anything else to do this, but kind of saw that green area around. It's going to hit everybody for a pretty massive amount of damage, and then I gain quite a bit of Shuffle from that. So let's take a look at the 3 Chi. So I've got no Shuffle right now. Boom, 8 seconds of Shuffle. Purifies me and deals quite a bit of damage. And so if I'm just doing it for 2, I'm going to gain 6 seconds of Shuffle and then do damage. And for 1 Chi, just a little bit of damage and nothing else. So would never really be casting it for 1. You're going to be casting it for 2 Chi or 3 Chi if you're using this in tank spec. So there's the Chi Explosion. I like it. It does a decent amount of damage. I love the 3 Chi Purifying Brew ability mixed in there. That's super helpful. The next one is going to be Serenity, and like I said before, I could see any of these abilities being beneficial for Brewmasters at certain fights and certain scenarios. And so this one, you enter an elevated state of mental and physical serenity, blah, 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 cool stuff. Basically, all of your Chi doesn't get consumed. So think of this as like starting area of a arena or battleground where all of your abilities they instantly refill as soon as you use them. So this doesn't give you full Chi, so never cast this when you're empty on Chi. But if you have full Chi, and this is a castable ability, we'll put it down there. If you have full Chi, then you can just spam abilities nonstop. So a couple things I could see this being useful for. One, if you're having to constantly use Purifying Brew because you're just taking super heavy damage, or if you just want to use Blackout Kick, spam that and get a ton of Shuffle, seconds of Shuffle up. I could see that as well. Or if you just need the damage. And so can go in here and let me get 4 chi to start off with. So I've got 4 chi. Got, let's see, no elusive brew here. I'm just going to spam blackout kick here, and so we can see how many stacks I can get up in that time frame. So go through here, use that, like the visual there, and you can just get a ton of time on. Okay, I lost that. So I now have 58 seconds, basically a minute of shuffle time up there. So I can just hang out, spend my chi on purifying brew if I need to, etc. Because that's going to last a really long time. So if I can get that up to 1 second with Serenity, which is on a 1 minute, and Serenity is on a 1.5 minute cooldown, I can basically have that up and just as part of my rotation use shuffle and never even come close to running out of that or having to manage that. So I can see that being beneficial, and the damage it puts out is pretty significant as well. So there's the level 100 talent. So we get Serenity, which doesn't consume any of your chi or instantly refills it rather. Chi Explosion, a lot of versatility there. You're going to be casting that for 2 or 3 chi. And then Soul Dance, you're going to be using that on magic damage-based fights. So there's those level 100 talents. The last thing I want to go over real quick is the Warlords of Draenor perks. If you guys aren't aware of these, from every time you level in Warlords of Draenor, you get a random perk. By level 100, everyone will have all of the same perks, but each level it would be a random one that you get. And so we'll go over those here real quick. And those are going to be in your general tab of your spellbook. The number 1 is a powered blackout kick, so the damage of blackout kick is increased by 20%. And you have empowered cake smash, so cake smash damage is increased by 20%. That's a pretty huge one. And then you've got enhanced transcendence, so the cooldown of transcendence is reduced by 35 per second, and transcendence transfer is now instant cast. This one would be really cool to me if they actually reduce the cooldown of transfer. So I like that it's instant, so I can just instantly cast it, but this is already off cooldown, and I gotta wait another 20 seconds for this one to come off cooldown. So it seems to me like they should be on similar cooldowns, but that's just me. You've got enhanced roll, so your roll now travels the same distance in 25% less time. So just a pretty quick roll there. You've got, let's see here, improved Breath of Fire. So your Breath of Fire spell now always applies its damage over time effect to the target, which is great because Keg Smash no longer casts that dizzying haze on targets, which allows you to put the damage over time from fire, so you need that perk there. The next one, let's see here, improved dizzying haze. Your dizzying haze no longer has an energy cost, so I can cast that all day long without using up any of my energy. Improved elusive brew. So if you guys saw when I used it earlier, it was 35% dodge chance, not just 30, and that's because of this perk here. Improved guard, we talk about, basically grants an additional charge to your guard ability. And then finally, improved stance of the Sturdy Ox. We've mentioned this one earlier as well. It's an additional 20% stamina when you're in Stance of the Sturdy Ox. So there you have it, guys. Those are all of the monk changes so far. If I missed anything, please let me know. Again, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. This is WoD from Margaritaville Guild, and thanks for watching.